Hi YouTube. I've been looking online. I came across a few videos on improving the performance of cast iron cookware, and many of them involved using power tools on the surface to try and smooth it out, since there's a lot of imperfections from the sand casting that they do when they create these. And what I have here is a old lodge pan that has been sitting around for several years in a very neglected state, as you can tell. And I'm curious to see if I can use the vapor honing system with a very aggressive media, 80 grit, and for a material that's as hard as cast iron, probably use a Garnet. And I'm curious to see if the 80 grit Garnet can improve the surface. So I'm going to switch out the media in the machine that I got in there right now for the 80 grit Garnet. We'll go ahead and load it in the machine. I'll transfer the video over there so that we can see how the process works. Guys, if you enjoy the content that I've been putting out, and I appreciate all the likes and comments that you've been leaving, consider subscribing. And give me a thumbs up, turn on your notification bells. That way, when I put out new videos, you guys will be the first ones to know about it. So without further ado, let me load this in the machine. We'll get going. I wanted to talk real quick before I turn the machine on why I chose Garnet for this. Garnet is a very hard material that has sharp edges, which would be perfect for coating removal, rust removal, and deburring. It's also 80 grit. I'm hoping that it will remove some of the imperfections in the cast iron. That way we can improve the surface without spending a whole lot of time on machining with tools. Let me fire up the vacuum and the pump, and we'll get cleaning. After blasting with 80 grit Garnet, we've removed all of the seasoning from this cast iron pan, and if we get in real close, we can see that it's still a fairly bumpy surface, and the back of it is also still very rusty. Now it did take a very long time with the 80 grit Garnet. What I'm going to try next is loading 36 grit Garnet into the vapor blaster, and try to see if I can improve the speed of production, and maybe knock off more of this rough surface off of here, and then remove this surface rust and seasoning from the backside. It's all done. And the 36 grit Garnet did a much better job. Now this is uncoated, so it's gonna start to rust here pretty quickly. But for right now, you can see we took all the old seasoning off, all the rust. Next would be to re-season it. What I plan to do is use some coconut oil on it, and then put it in the oven, season it, and I'll try to video that, guys. But yeah, the vapor honing system will pull the old seasoning off cast iron along with rust and everything else. However, keep in mind that since you've exposed it to water, you gotta dry it off right away and oil it. Just gave it a quick wipe down with some Luan coconut oil, and just put some on a little rag, wiped it all over, got it front and back, and then used a new clean washcloth to take all of the excess oil off. Now the next step would be to put it in the oven and bake it for some time, and I'm not sure what the temperature is. I'll look it up, and then reapply a few more coats of the coconut oil. I'll update the video as I go along. Here's where we're at with the seasoning process of this pan. So it's got 3 coats of the coconut oil, and what I did is I set the oven to bake, convection bake at 550 degrees for 1 hour, and that seemed to do the trick. How I'm applying the coconut oil is very, very light coats, and then I completely wipe it down. It does leave behind a film of the oil, and right now it's not sticky or anything. I'm going to continue to build up the seasoning coat. I'm going to continue to build up the seasoning coat in hopes to improve the slickness of this bottom surface. Right now it's not, you still feel the grain of the pan. It's not like very smooth. It's not sticky, but it's not smooth. I've seen some information online that tells you that between these seasoning coats you should be using some type of a scruff pad on the surface to reintroduce more fine scratches, so that the next round of seasoning will adhere better to the previous coat. However, I have not done that. I may try that with these next set of coats to see if I can get this thing real slick. And then we'll do a little cooking demo and check out how it comes out. I'll update you guys after I add the next set of seasonings to it. Gave it a quick scruff with a scruff pad. I got some fine scratches now back on the surface, and I'm going to go ahead and apply another coat of the coconut oil and bake it in the oven at 550 for 1 hour. I'll repeat this process a few more times until I'm satisfied with the surface finish. This is the way the pan turned out after being re-seasoned. I had started off trying to season it using coconut oil and heating the oven to about 550. The coconut oil was just put on and then completely wiped off. Whatever small film was left over is what was on the pan before it went into the oven at 550 for 1 hour. I did that 3 times and started to notice that the pan in between seasonings was showing a little bit of rust. Went on YouTube, found some additional information, and there was some suggestions that between the seasoning coats you scruff it with a scruff pad, And I did that. It worked out really well. I then switched from the coconut oil to vegetable shortening. Spread the vegetable shortening all over the pan. Wiped off all the excess, leaving just whatever film was still clinging to the metal, but no big clumps or lumps or anything. Put it back into the oven at 550 for 1 hour. And I repeated that process 2 times. And this is currently what the skillet looks like. To me, it's a very good finish. Huge improvement over the rusty mess that it was originally. It's there's nothing sticky about it. The next step would be to season the cooking surface so that it creates that slick non-stick film needed for food not to adhere to it. That would be the next step. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Back again with another update on the seasoning of the Lodge cast iron skillet. I heated a pan on medium heat on an induction cooktop, and used about a tablespoon of vegetable oil that I wiped the entire inside of the pan with. I allowed that to cook for about 20 seconds, then removed it from the heat and allowed it to cool completely. The surface came out real well. I washed it just with warm water and a soft brush to get the excess oil off. The results are very good. The water was beading off of the surface of the pan, which indicates to me that there is a good film for producing a non-stick surface. What I plan to do next is try it. I'm going to try to cook on it. So there's the pan now, and I'm going to cook, either maybe fry some eggs or make some pancakes. This is the last part of the cast iron skillet restoration project. What I used to season it was the vegetable shortening, and the process is just it's pretty simple. It's just spread the vegetable shortening all around the inside and outside of the pan. Then get yourself a lint-free cloth that you can wipe all that excess shortening off the pan. Whatever remains that you're unable to wipe off, that's what you would leave on the pan. The next step would be to heat up your oven to 550 degrees. In my case, that's what I did, 550, and I put it in there. They recommend face down, but I guess that's if you have a lot of oil inside the pan, which in my case I did not. So for me, it didn't matter whether it was upside down or right side up. I didn't get any shortening dripping off the pan or anything like that. But if you want to be safe, go ahead and line the bottom of your oven or the following rack with something to catch any potential oil drippings. After that, just want to bake it for 1 hour. Then shut off the heat and allow the oven to cool completely along with the cast iron skillet. Then you can, at that point, take the skillet out. What worked best for me was, in between seasoning coatings, was to scruff the pad. I use a scruff pad on the pan, which is what I did. And that's going to remove any kind of little bumps or imperfections on the first seasoning coating, and create small scratches on that newly seasoned surface to allow the next layer of seasoning to adhere. I went ahead and did the same process again with the vegetable shortening, then wiping off all the excess. Again, preheat the oven to 550, place the skillet face side down, and bake it for another 1 hour. Turn the oven off, allow it to cool completely, then take your skillet out. And prior to cooking, the next step would be to preheat the pan using either gas or electric or induction stove or cooking plate to about medium heat, and then use about a tablespoon of vegetable oil in the center of the pan. Once it's gotten warm enough, you'll know when it's warm enough because after you turn the burner on and you start to feel heat radiating off the pan, then that'll be about the appropriate time to add the vegetable oil. Using again the lint-free cloth, go ahead and spread the oil evenly along the bottom and sides of the inside of the pan. Then allow that to cook for about 20 seconds. You can turn the burner off, either leave the pan there where it's at or set the pan off to the side. Allow the pan to cool completely. And what I did was I did 2 rounds of this process. Now what I'm going to demonstrate now is the cooking surface, the way that it came out, and the non-stick properties that have developed on the pan as a result of these steps that I've mentioned previously. All right, without further ado, let me go ahead and reposition the camera, and I'll video a little cooking session. I'm going to make some pancakes. I'll go ahead and link the recipe online. You guys can check that out. Again, if you guys like the content I'm putting out, consider subscribing to the channel. Give me a thumbs up if you like the content, and turn on your notification bells. That way you're alerted to upcoming videos. Thanks again for watching. What I like to do is once I see the edges start getting dull in color, they're not shiny, and then the bubbles are starting to hold, I'll know that it's time to flip it. That might be a little early, but let me give it a shot. There's one pancake. As soon as you start to see a little steam coming off the edges and the edges looking a little golden, go ahead and flip it. Now we'll do an egg test. like your egg over easy, you can go ahead and flip it now. And there you go. Over easy egg on a newly seasoned cast iron skillet. And all you got to do once you're done is you can either simply wipe it off or just rinse it with some warm water after the pan totally cools. I'm going to go ahead and wipe it down now. And guys, every time you cook on it, it's just going to get better and better. Let's move the camera over here so you guys can see. There it is. Grab my fork. There's our over easy egg and pancakes. There you have it. Bon appetit. Delish. Thanks for watching.